I sat down with Ebony Adomanis and Matt Hatch, and we discussed episode 3 of The Wheel of Time. It was quite frankly the most fun I've had in a very long time, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So, stick around. My friends, welcome back to another long overdue episode of What Were They Thinking? The segment in which my wonderful guests and I perform my signature crap analysis of episode 3 of The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. For those of you who do not know or might have just forgotten, this is where we compare and contrast the show to the books, reverse engineer the decision-making process, anticipate the ripple effects that these changes will have had on the plot lines, and finally, predict the direction the show is going to take based on our previous discussion. Now, before I bring out our guests, I want to remind everyone that this segment is full show and book spoilers. Episodes 1 through 8, New Spring Through a Memory of Light. If you have not seen all the episodes or read all the books and you do not like spoilers, then I strongly encourage you to bookmark this video and come back when you are done. Now, for those of you who remain, I have some very exciting guests for you tonight. Our first guest, if you have ever been to JordanCon, you will know her as the face that greets the newbies, and you've probably also seen some of her contributions on Dragonmount. It is my absolute pleasure to bring to the show Ebony Adomanis. Our second guest, and I know I say this a lot, but he truly needs no introduction. He is the glue that holds our fandom together, everyone's favorite innkeeper, Matt Hatch. Welcome to the show, Ebony and Matt. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Glad to be here.
It's really great to have you. I noticed that I very frequently will say we have exciting guests, or everybody's going to love these guests, and it occurred to me that maybe I don't need to say that, because it should kind of be taken for granted that I am going to get exciting guests on the show. I mean, just imagine if I were to come out and say, we have really mediocre guests for you tonight. Joining me tonight are my plumber and a demented cat. Neither
like
of whom
setting
have read the
expectations,
book.
people are going to be surprised.
Yes, but a demented cat is an exciting guess.
But not if they haven't read the books.
I mean, I don't know. I've got
have they seen the TV series?
Have they seen the series? So
yeah.
Well, okay, that's fair. If the demented cat has seen the TV series, they might be an exciting guest.
Decent for sure.
Decent guest anyway. Yeah. Episode 3. Matt, you mentioned to me that this was your favorite episode.
Yeah, this is definitely, if it always kind of goes maybe between the top 2. Sometimes I really love episode 7 a lot, but yeah, the 3 to me has always been my favorites, because it has that, it just, again, I'm a book fan, and it just followed the book more closely in ways that I appreciated than other episodes did. And not that it has to follow the book for me to appreciate it, whereas like 7 wasn't necessarily like that, but it followed things that I just adored and hoped that they kind of brought into the show. And so they did. And I was really, really pleased as a viewer.
Ebony, was there anything about episode 3 that you particularly liked?
I liked a lot of the interaction between Matt and Rand, because I think, for one, it gave you some of the dynamic of their relationship, but you could really see Matt changing. Like, we didn't necessarily see a whole lot of Matt in the beginning, but you definitely noticed a change as that episode progressed. I really liked that. I liked meeting Tom. He wasn't the Tom I expected, but I liked it. I did like him. So song could have been a little cheerier, but hey.
Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because he's not he's not the Tom that I had envisioned either. But he's kind of become my headcanon Tom now. Like he's really fit into that role for me. The first difference is the addition of that cold open with Nynaeve and the Trolloc. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that little segment. Ebony?
I liked it. I did like it because I think it gave us some insight to Nynaeve's strength that I don't think, I mean, we didn't have a bunch of chapters. Like we didn't have a lot of time to really learn about Nynaeve. So I think it was a smart way to do it. I was a little disappointed that meant we didn't get the whole scene of the council, the men talking, and Nynaeve just being like, whatever, I'm going to talk to the women's council and I'm going to go find them thing, because I was kind of hoping to see how that played out. But at the same time, like I said, it very quickly showed us that Nynaeve was a survivor, that Nynaeve would do what needed to be done, no matter what, and that she was smart. Like she thought quickly on her feet, because I can tell you right now, if that was me in a Trolloc, I would have gotten up. I don't know that I would have gotten up and tried to run and gone into the pool, and you know what I mean? I don't know that I would have fought back. I would have definitely hid, but I don't know that I would have fought back. So I think that gave us good insight to her character.
Yeah, I feel like some of the changes that they made had to do with how they, for example, left the village after the attack.
Right.
You know, if you're not hiding the leaving, then
right.
if it's just out in the open, you would have to make account for Nynaeve and what she would say in that moment. And she certainly doesn't trust these people, and she certainly would not have trusted them no matter how much they had saved the village and just been like, see ya, everybody.
Right.
So getting her out, that was such a creative way. It's so shocking when she gets pulled out of the village by a Trolloc, and you just feel the moment with Egwene like screaming for her. And you know, having read the books, you think to yourself, no, there's no way this is the end of Nynaeve. But you do ask, like, what's going to happen to her? So I like that they gave that. I do, like you said, Ebony, it would have been nice if she'd, like, I don't know, like walked into the village with a Trolloc head or something and been like,
that would have been good. Yeah.
And just been like, where's everybody? And just like, I mean, but again, they wanted to hold that moment, right? They wanted that moment that happens right at the end of episode 2, which starts us off here in episode 3. They wanted that shocking moment, even though the book readers were like, well, this kind of is what happens. She shows up and you are kind of like, oh, this is, I remember thinking, perfect. I remember at the end of episode 2, feeling that of just like, yes, this is a great end. And so then to kind of then see where she came from in that moment. Yeah. Again, one of the best cold opens of the show. And just something where they made something out of whole cloth. And I actually really loved it. I think it worked really well into the story, into the very kind of small changes they were making to how people left and how people showed back up.
Speaking of the way episode 2 ended, I liked that more than what we got in the book, because all we get in the book from Lan when he realizes Nynaeve tracked him was just, I mean, he kind of just raises his eyebrows. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a and then we didn't learn to take that as that's a sign of interest for him. Like, oh, maybe she's worked. I'm much more like oh, you really did try to kill me. I liked that's like my favorite interaction between them.
And I love that scene too, especially when that shows you his reflexes, because she then goes to stab him in the neck and he just steps to the side and disarms her. No, but so going back to what you were saying, Matt, I had never actually thought of it in those terms, that this was a setup with Nynaeve to answer what's she going to do when they're leaving. Because like you said, she's not going to let Moiraine and Lan ride off with them without a fight.
Yep.
And the truth is, you don't actually know that she didn't bring a severed Trollocs head to the castle.
That's my headcanon. Yeah,
because they cut from her killing the Trolloc single-handedly with his own sword to threatening that Lan's life with the same Trolloc sword.
Yeah, it's probably not the first person's life she's threatened since killing the Trolloc until she gets to Lan. She's
Probably
probably
not.
I was gonna
Probably
say
not.
it's not the first person's life she's threatened before killing the Trolloc. Like I feel like
Yeah,
that
that's
some
true.
people's lives have been threatened by Nynaeve
They believe her.
before Winter's Night.
She's
Yes.
somebody you believe for sure.
Yes. So there were a couple of other minor, as the show progressed, there were a couple other minor changes that were by necessity because of how they had progressed, because of how the story had progressed in episode 2. Matt and Rand are on a mountainside rather than on the sea spray with Tom, because obviously there was no Tom in Shadar Logoth, and they are trying to make their way to Tarvalon instead of Caemlyn, because there's no Caemlyn in season 1.
Yep.
But the bigger thing to me was when Perrin and Egwene are in the Caroline grass, and they are taking shelter and trying to build a fire. And so first that scene was very deep to me, because first it shows the depth of Perrin's trauma, by the fact that he's trying as hard as he can to make a fire, which for a woodsman is a fairly simple task with your dagger, your knife, and your flint, but he can't do it, and he's completely losing his head when he's not able to do it. He cuts himself. He's like starting to go crazy, and then Egwene channels. Now, if you remember in the books when this happened, so Egwene had channeled herself a fire, but when they were together, she tried and failed. And his response wasn't try again. His response was, never do that again. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Whereas here, he looks at her and he's like, can you maybe channel us some food and water? So his acceptance of her channeling was very, very discordant to me as a book reader, because that's very different to me from how his perspective is in the books. And I would like your opinions on that, what you think of that little segment.
In the book, we are introduced to a very, very cautious Perrin. In the series, we already see him lose control. Well, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, for all his caution in that moment, nobody was being cautious. And he does one of the worst things ever. I mean, he kills his wife. I think from that point on, he is struggling with so many different emotions that Egwene channeling, he was just like, there's nothing I could do. Like, I don't think he had it within him to be like, don't do that. Like, he's already experienced so much trauma up to that point. I feel like he's lost that more cautious nature at that point. In his mind, I feel like he still feels the need to take care of Egwene, because he couldn't take care of his wife because of what he did. But at the same time, I think he feels like maybe I'm not the best one to do it. So if she channeled. Maybe I should just. I think they're trying to show, yeah, he was cautious, but he already lost that. Like, in the books, it happens a lot later. So because his trauma is losing Fael. So we gave him trauma a lot earlier. So I don't think we're going to see a super, super cautious Perrin. I think he'll still be the thinker out of Rand, Matt, and him. Like, I still think he'll probably be the more cautious one, but I don't know that that's saying a lot compared to Rand and Matt. But I feel like they're just trying to show that, yeah, he is already gotten to the point where he's taking things as they come because he feels like he can't control things.
Yeah, I think they broke him. They broke him, right?
They did. They broke him way early.
And I don't think we can. It's not that I don't think they have a plan to how to get Perrin and Perrin's arc. It's just we're not accustomed, right? We didn't see Robert Jordan break Perrin and how Robert Jordan carried him through the first book because of that. I
Mhm.
mean, you do obviously have Perrin. I mean, even Perrin's when Robert Jordan has him kill the White Cloaks, you don't even, it's almost like he kind of blacks out,
Right. He doesn't.
right? Like
He
there's,
doesn't remember.
and it's not like it's such a, like Robert Jordan doesn't go back to it over and over again that I remember, at least.
He doesn't, and there was no emotional tie there.
Yeah, like this one, he's staring, right? Like he carries her. He's seeing the dead Trolloc. It carries her out into the, onto the green afterwards,
Mhm.
and he's guilt ridden because
Yes.
everyone assumes the Trollocs did it, and he can't bring himself to tell them that it was him.
Mhm.
And that guilt and that breaking that he feels and that loss, I don't think that he. I think the Perrin that we get is one that just doesn't, especially this early, doesn't really care other than whatever it takes for his friends to stay alive at this point. Do it.
Mhm.
Channeling, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's kind of at this point like, yeah, I don't want us to die. Does channeling work? Can I get some food? I don't like. At this point, I've lost the meaning of what I was fighting for in the first place, and I think that's where he's at in this moment. By the end of
Mhm.
the series, I think he's
He's
gotten
coming
further.
back.
He's gotten further beyond that, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that you have this moment, and so maybe it's a good thing. At first I didn't like it,
Mhm.
but maybe talking about it this way, the Perrin that's broken, the idea that he would kind of just be like, no, Egwene, no channeling, would speak to just a different mindset of that person. And we didn't have that Perrin in this moment.
We didn't, and even in the books, he hadn't killed the White Cloaks yet. At that point, he was still Perrin from the village.
True.
He was still
Good point.
very, very cautious Perrin. And in the series, he dreams about Layla being dead again. Like you said in the book, he never really revisits that. Like he never mentioned it. Like if he dreams about it, we don't see
Right, we
it.
don't get the point of view of it. Right. Exactly.
Right. But like
right.
we know this is eating him up inside. Like
Yeah.
he feels terrible. And then with all the stuff that's revealed later in the later series, like he's got a lot of emotions going on right now. And I think you're right. I think he's like, we got to get back home. Like, what is it going to take for us to get home to make things right? So if we have to channel, I mean, they were already following an Aes Sedai. So like there's going to be channeling involved.
Right. We see Perrin's dream in the Forge. Now we've seen the dreams that the boys had in Bear Lawn. And we saw, in episode 2, we saw it was the dreams with the bats, which was kind of the analog to their dreams with Balsamon and the rats. Mm-hmm. This was a little bit different. Like you mentioned, he dreamed that he dreamed of Layla, and he dreamed that a wolf was disemboweling her.
Yeah.
And so this is a loaded question for the two of you.
Okay.
There was a theory. I shouldn't say loaded question. It's a heavy question for the two of you. There was a theory going around a long time ago, and by a long time ago, I mean shortly after these episodes came out.
So long ago.
It feels like a long time ago.
Right.
That Layla was perhaps a dark friend, and she was trying to kill Perrin. And when he turned around with the axe and killed her, that he was killed her while she was about to hit him with the axe. Right. Do you think that the symbolism of the wolf eating Layla might imply that she was actually a dark friend?
So I hate to do this because I love theories. I think it's been sufficiently bunked. We've seen a script, an earlier script, and of that scene, I think, has kind of been out there, and it doesn't show, or it doesn't suggest that Layla's moving to do anything like that. The actor that played that said no, it's not. I can't remember if Sarah Nakamura also said something to the effect. Anyways,
it was either her or
Sarah gave a very Aes Sedai answer about it.
Yeah, but Helena has had a lot of fun for the couple months afterwards talking about this. Like she'd always make like these jokes about her death in the show. But to me, the symbolism, though, what I did notice recently when I watched was Perrin, when they have that moment where they're putting the lanterns in the water in episode 1. Perrin and Layla are there, and they kind of, I can't remember if they just kind of embrace. And
He's
he kind
standing
of,
behind her.
yeah, he's standing behind her, kind of holding her. I don't
Mhm.
know, like in that moment, I kind of wondered if they had lost maybe
So
they
that
had
is a
lost
theory
that they
that's
had
been going
lost a
around.
child. Like, in other words, you see Matt's mom leans down and puts a lantern in. In other
Mhm.
words, this is an evening of about their losses, and so it
Right.
did make me wonder if, not that she was pregnant, but if there had been loss in there, between them, and that there was some melancholy because of that loss prior to that. I'm not talking about the theories where she's pregnant
Right.
and then he hit her in the belly. So to me, the wolf symbolism is actually, I think, just on the nose. I think it's the idea that the wolf inside Perrin is the thing that killed Layla, and he's seeing that symbolism in the dream where that's going to be that he's that it's maybe, yeah, it's Perrin the wolf in me, and that's what, and I can't become that thing because that's the thing that killed my wife. That's kind of that's where I take that symbolism.
So I have a completely different theory.
Go for
it. Well, it's not even a theory. So we do see the Alzamon in the dream, like he's in the window in the background.
Yep.
I always equated this to the dream Rand has where they show his adopted mother. And he's she's saying like, help free me and everything. I just think it's Beelzebub messing with Perrin because he doesn't want him to become a wolf brother. Like he wants him to still fear the wolves because, as we all know, the wolves aren't dark friends. So he doesn't want Perrin to embrace that part of him.
Yeah, I think Beelzebub touching that dream and somehow being a part of it.
And since we didn't get I will say, I remember being on your show, Matt, and us talking about what dreams we needed to get rid of that we didn't need to see. Each and every dream that the boys had, right. we didn't need to see all of them. I think, I don't know if we'll see another one, but I think because the killing of Layla was so like tragic and like, oh my God, that they chose to put that in a dream sequence. As opposed to just Rand seeing his adopted mother that he didn't even really remember. I think also to show that whatever they're dealing with is a really dark force. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he is going to do any and everything to get whoever it is he's trying to get.
Yeah.
If we take a look at this from kind of an outside view or a top-down view, why do you think they would have chosen to include this dream sequence now?
I feel like it was signaling kind of like we are going to get Perrin and dreams. Like it was a signal to book readers, like this is coming. We're not unaware of this connection. We are going to see more of this. Right, we have the wolves in episode 2, episode 3. We have them kind of driving them towards the Tinkers. So I think it's, you're not getting Elias, but be patient because Perrin and the wolves and the dream world are coming. That's a subliminal messaging that I think that they were putting in because they knew they weren't giving us that in season 1.
Right.
And so they were kind of front loading.
It was to pacify us. It was to be like, they're like, okay, we know wolf dream. We got it. We know that exists. But also it's only episode 3. We don't know who the dragon is. They tried very hard to lead non-book readers astray. Like there's an episode for it. In fact, they didn't really focus. To me, they didn't focus on Rand a whole lot. Like, even though my son did guess it was Rand, but I feel like they were almost given little clues about Matt. Like they made Matt a lot more dark than he was. They gave Perrin this darkness where he killed his wife. Like, who knows? Maybe he will. Maybe the darkness is in him. You know what I mean? So I think it was also kind of a distraction technique.
That's interesting. I hadn't really gone towards the, I just look, we've read the books for too long that it's hard to like put us in the mindset of, if someone saw that, would they have believed he was a dragon? But interestingly enough, I didn't think about the idea that Lews Therin does kill his wife. And that is somebody, right? We think of the previous dragon kills his wife, and they brought forth this idea of Perrin killing his wife and this idea of who's the dragon. Anyways, I hadn't connected those. I don't know why I hadn't. Maybe I have. Honestly,
Well,
I can't remember anything I said. Like, if go, I guess in the last many live streams we've done, maybe I was like, oh yeah, this is an obvious connection, but maybe there was an element of, leave Perrin among the possibilities here, because
right.
he doesn't. What other kind of reason would you have to believe that it's Perrin?
Right. And they had to break him that early to even make it like that. I mean, I feel like that's part of the reason they had to change Matt's character and they had to break Perrin so early, is because they're talking about this evilness that one of them was going to be the one that had the ability to break the world. But if we had just happy-go-lucky Matt and really cautious Perrin, and then
no one would have believed they were possible dragons.
They seem like normal. Yeah. Like, so it would be like, well, Rand seems he's the only one with red hair. That's sketchy. I feel like it would have pointed to Rand a lot sooner. So while I know a lot of people didn't like the changes they made to Matt and Perrin, I'm like, you're also looking at it as somebody who knows, right?
Dark Matt and Dark Perrin were all it's
a red herring. They were all red herrings
based on the plot of Who's the Dragon Reborn.
Because they were pushing that so hard as to who's it going to be.
Yeah, I can take that. I don't think. Obviously, Perrin does kill people in the books, right?
Yes.
And maybe they wanted to go with like maybe Perrin's reactions out of that isn't in the book, isn't something that is as believable. Like, wait a second, but you killed some people. Because it was more like, well, he's defending the wolves, so yeah, I can see that it served both purposes, which is make them dark enough that people could consider them the dragon, but also lead into some character arc stuff that we have planned for both of them come season 2. That's my guess.
Now that we know that Rand is the dragon, I fully expect to see like a somewhat redeemed Matt and Perrin. You know what I mean? We're still not going to get book Matt and book Perrin because of the background they've already given them. But I do think we'll get a Perrin and Matt more like the mid books. You know what I mean? Like after they've come to terms with the fact that their best friend is the Dragon Reborn and they're gonna have to help save the world. And yes, I'm a wolf man. And yes, I am apparently a hero, no matter how hard I try not to be. Like, I think they're still gonna have to come to terms with being Taviran, basically. And I think it'll level out. I think more of the people that weren't on board with the character changes, if they can be convinced to watch season 2 and future seasons, I think that they'll come around because they'll get more of because a lot of people didn't like Matt in the beginning anyway. A lot of fans think Matt's a jerk in the beginning of the book series. So we'll just get to the not jerk Matt sooner.
Yeah, it's not until book 3, till post healing Matt, that he really, really comes into his own. So there are 2 questions that I have for you that spring up from that, and I'll pose them both now. You can answer them in turn, in order, however you want to do it. The first question is, so that being said, do you think that was just Balzaman entering Perrin's dream? Do you think it was Tel'aran'rhiod, or do you think it was maybe Balzaman pulling him into a dream shard? And then the second question, while you're mulling that over, is I lost my question, so you can start to answer that, and I will ask my question afterwards.
Ebony?
I think so I'm not 100% on any of them. I think what is most likely is Perrin was definitely having that dream and Balzaman was affecting it. Like, I don't think he was necessarily in the dream world, even though there was a wolf. But in the books, the boys have so many dreams where it's mostly Balzaman messing with them. And I don't know if they ever clarify in the books if they were in Tel'aran'rhiod or if it was just him going into their dreams. So except for in the books where he gets the herons. Like that one seemed like he was pulled into it. And I guess later on with the bats, then maybe he was, because that was something physical that happened in the dream that crossed over into the real world, which we know can happen in Teleron. But for Perrin, I feel like he was just reliving, he was just having that dream. The wolves had already been messing with him a little bit. And I think he was thinking about all those things. And Baalzamon was just like, let me see if he's the one. Let me go in here and see what happens if I mess around with him.
Yeah, because in the dream shard, you're going to have more control over things. And both of them leave their dreams relatively easily.
Right.
It's kind of like
they just wake up.
They're like surprised awake. And you can see kind of in the books where they struggle to get out of the dream itself. And when it's more likely a dream shard than it is just their dream that he's manipulating. And so a dream that he might have of the Forge and his wife makes sense. And even a wolf being there, but Baalzamon kind of tweaking that a bit, affecting it, and showing up a bit in it before he's able to jump out of his dream, to me makes the most sense.
That sounds reasonable. I remembered my other question. So the ripple effects. I know that we see later on in the season that Perrin and Egwene do get caught by the White Cloaks, but Perrin has not murdered White Cloaks. And you suggested, now I'm forgetting which one, I think it was Ebony, you suggested that, correct me if I'm wrong, you suggested that Perrin murdering Layla was maybe not a replacement of killing the White Cloaks, but it was kind of a similar character development, that killing Layla is even stronger, has more of a personal connection. So as we know later, very late in the series, Perrin is brought to justice for murdering the White Cloaks. He has this whole trial with Morghese, and this is one of the things that brings Galad to trust Perrin. The fact that he was willing to bring himself to trial and to abide by the ruling and by the justice, that was one of the things that helped Galad believe that Perrin was not shadow spawn and not evil and a trustworthy person. So how do you think this is going to pan out?
I have thoughts, because I noticed in at least one situation, they gave Egwene a line that Rand says in the book. And at some point, when they are escaping the White Cloaks, it's Egwene that does any damage. However, I don't think anybody's murdered yet. I actually think that there's going to be another interaction. I think Perrin may still end up killing some White Cloaks at some point, because so at this point now the White Cloaks are definitely going to be looking. You know what I mean? They're definitely going to be looking for him. They've got his name. They know what he looks like. I think at some point there's going to be an APB out on him. We haven't been introduced to Hopper yet, like a formal introduction. So I feel like that is still going to, I feel like that Hopper has a strong enough fan base that they're not going to take that from us. I hope they don't, because I think it is important to Perrin's character arc also. So if that still happens at some point, because let's see, in the books, he has to, at some point, he has to rescue some Two Rivers folk. So maybe it's at that point it happens. But so, I do. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was gonna add to it. I love the idea that you're saying, bringing that Perrin may still happen. Because at first, when the question was brought up, I realized, well, yeah, Egwene kind of stabs him and Valda, but he's the one who looks at Perrin. Shot. Well, yeah, I know it wasn't, but he looks at Perrin and he's like, "What are you?" And then the wolves are the ones that are coming and attacking. So Eamon already
He's gonna make the
hates
connection.
he hates
Yes.
Aes Sedai, but he's gonna connect the eyes to the wolves, and he's going to want, like, I can see them creating this as like a real desire to go to the two rivers, like find out if that's where the wolves began, you know, like, is that where
Right,
these
yeah.
evil wolves come from, is their home. So it just feels like definitely a setup. Perrin killing a white cloak in this regard, I mean, he has to kill Eamon Valda. Like, that's like, I just feel like it's like a foregone conclusion. He's got to be the one to do it. Like, so if he's going to kill them, I think it would at least be that one. I think it's going to be in Two Rivers or around there, and I think it has to be like a season 3 story arc, I would imagine.
Yeah,
so, but yeah.
I still think he is going to at some point kill a white cloak. Because like I said, it's Hopper's fate is almost between Hopper and Fael is almost what makes Perrin go, okay, I'm going to accept this part of me because I am starting to realize that this part of me can help me help my friends.
Can they drop Hopper? That's going to be an interesting question out of season 2.
I mean, can you imagine? Like, look how upset people are already.
I can. I mean, I don't think they're like people are upset. We're not going to make changes. So
it's dropping Hopper is only a step below dropping Bella.
Like,
they do say that the fans love their Wheel of Time animals. So
well, because we don't get that many of them, and the ones we get are such good animals. I mean, Bella is everywhere she needs to be when she needs to be there. Like, she is the most dependable shaggy mare ever. And then Hopper is just amazing. Like, Hopper is like, I'm gonna take this kid who doesn't want to be a wolf. I'll do it. I'll train him up. Yeah. So yeah, there'll be a riot if they drop Hopper.
Yeah, so I feel we need to mention, just in passing, that the whole story arc in Green Spring is just a condensation of the condensation. It's just condensing the.
I like that. I like that. It's like the sweat off of a cup, cooling.
It's just the condensing of Rand and Matt's travels from Whitebridge to Camelin, because there's no way that they would have the time or the budget to have us see 4 different or more towns along the way where they chop wood or juggle and play the flute, which they don't have with them because they didn't have Tom. So I
mean, I'd watch it, but yes,
I really thought we were going to get a full-on 80s style montage of them traveling. Like, that was my full expectation.
There's actually going to be a spin-off series, which is just 2 full seasons of Rand and Matt going from Whitebridge to Camelin.
Be good.
And every single farm and every single town that they go through, and it's just
we will all watch it.
They gotta have Pater in there. Yeah, I mean, we need all the dark friends. So.
Yes.
So that I think it kind of it just explains itself. It seems fairly obvious, but the next big thing to me in this episode was the introduction to the Tuatha. I was a little bit taken aback when I saw them, because I was expecting a much more gaudy and boisterous people, and our first introduction to them is very, very dreary and drab. Like, their clothing and their caravans don't seem to be very bright and garish, and they seem to be somewhat more muted in colors. And I don't know if that's just a practical thing that they didn't have enough time to wash.
Look, the Tuatha get cold. Okay, sometimes they're just not that excited because it's really cold outside.
I don't know about that. They're in the books. They're always on. Always
every time we see them, they are. Yeah. But I will say, in the books, when we meet them, they're already camped. They're settled. When we meet them in the series, they're actually on the move.
True.
So they're on the move. We know it was super windy and it was cold. So though I will say, I think in the next episode, things did look brighter. So I don't know if it was how they were filming it, the fact that they were moving and where they were, or if it was just, I don't, like, COVID happened. I don't, I blame everything on COVID. Like, it could have been anything.
Right.
But I think I would imagine them on the move, they're not going to be as excited as once they've settled and camped and got some food in them and that type of thing. So I think that accounts for them not being as, I guess, jovial as when we first meet them in the books. But you're right, they did have muted tones. I was expecting more of a bohemian, very bright, everything. And the wagons were not that bright on the outside. I don't recall if we got to see the inside of any of them, because that scene, I know the outside of the wagons were painted brightly, but the insides were too.
Right.
So, and
we got to see. Yeah, I thought maybe like one of them. But
yeah, but I mean, also they could have just been faded. Like, how often do they repaint things? Like, stuff is going to fade in the travels.
As often as they need to. No, so actually, really, the one thing that really just confused me was that when they first approached, and Ela and Rain started the welcoming ritual, which I was very pleased with, because to me that ritual has always resonated. Thank you. I promise I can English. That welcome has always resonated with me, and so I was very pleased that they made it in there, and it's pretty much the same as it's exactly the same as it is in the books. But it seemed very odd to me that the leaders of the Tuatha'an would not understand that two young people who didn't seem to recognize that they are Tuatha'an would not know the proper response to the Tuatha'an ritual. Like, they just kept repeating, "Do you know the song?" And it took Aram stepping out to basically come in and tell them the proper response and be like, "You got to say this, or they're just going to keep asking you the question."
I mean, you had Elias before, right?
Right. And Elias did know it.
We skipped a lot of this kind of the formalities because we just kind of used the Elias pass. He was like,
Elias knew what to say.
Right. Elias participated in the ritual. He said the proper responses.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was. Yeah. The Tinkers, from a sense of humor standpoint, like you said, they definitely made them seem different.
Stoic. They made them more stoic.
Like they were like they were other, certainly, and they had their own kind of culture, and these were two outsiders to that culture, and they definitely dug into that feeling until, of course, once they get in, right? Once they get past the formality, then the warmth and everything began. And maybe that's what they wanted it to feel like. Maybe it was the outsider's view of Tinkers. And so maybe that's what they were trying to play with us with, which was just, this is how Tinkers are viewed. But once you get in, you've realized they're just a warm, welcoming people. But everyone, so I kind of took it that way. Like, we were looking at it from Egwene and Perrin's point of view. And that was how that's how at least I've kind of understood the muted thing and the kind of the greeting aspect.
Right. I think with the greeting, I think in a lot of ways, the Tinkers are not very formal. Like, they're pretty laid back, but that song and that ritual are the one thing that is like, this always has to be done the correct way. This is our purpose. This is why we do this. And I think that is the reason, like, and maybe it's some kind of weird Tinker thing where the person asking can't tell you what you're supposed to answer. Maybe that messes up the ritual in some way. You know what I mean? Like that's cheating. Like, I can't tell you what to say. Or maybe the hope is if you say it long enough, the person will say, "I know the song," just to get you to stop asking. But also, since we didn't see the dance around the fire and everything, I think it was a good way to kind of give us just a quick hit of Aaron's personality. You know what I mean? That he's just, because he was kind of a jokester, kind of a Matt-like character. Like, he was kind of like, this is ridiculous. Just say this. These are my grandparents. They're old and weird. Just do this, and then my grandma will feed you. But because in the books, you don't really get a lot of his personality like that. I mean, he's got a little thing for Egwene, but he seems almost like he's ready to compete with Perrin. Like, he assumes Egwene is with Perrin, and like, I'm gonna steal her from you. So I don't know if maybe taking Elias out and putting Aaron in, and you also see that maybe he's not as dedicated to the Tinker way of life as some other Tinkers are, because he didn't seem to take the ritual that seriously.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that could be foreshadowing him leaving at some point. Like, it's not like I'm here because this is the way I was brought up, but maybe show me something different and I'll follow that. Yeah. But I will say, I do like them adding the story about Aaron's mother, because it's never, I like it. I also noticed that they gave all the grandfather's lines to the grandmother, which I am assuming because she is a more famous actress. She was like, I want to have the big important lines, because in the book, he does the ritual.
Yeah.
So.
Right. It seemed like they were making her the Mahdi.
It seemed like she was the leader.
Refresh my memory, because now I'm completely blanking on this. Do they actually use the name Mahdi as the name for the leader?
Elias
I can't
does.
remember. No,
I believe Elias in the books he does.
In the books, absolutely. But I'm saying in the show,
I don't think they did.
Because I was thinking that they might leave that out entirely. Kind of the way that they've renamed the taint, the corruption, that they might leave out the name Mahdi because of the connection to Dune. That they might leave it out because of the confusion.
Yeah, I don't think they mentioned that, and I don't think they even said seeker.
Right.
I can't remember. I
don't remember, but
those weren't the lines I paid the most attention to.
I know. But no, I think that she just kind of introduced them as, this is our tribe. You know what I mean? These are our people. But I don't think they used either one of those terms to like establish that one of them was the leader or the seeker or anything like that.
We kind of skipped over the discussion earlier about the whole Lan and the Nynaeve sequences that are scattered throughout, where at first he had her bound to a tree and gagged until she agreed to help Moraine and not run away or try to kill them. And then he was following her as she was harvesting, foraging for flowers. But then when she tells him that the Moraine basically has 3 hours left to live, he goes riding off, and we see him ride to the edge of this cliff that's overlooking the forests as if he's looking for something. What do you think he's? I guess towards the end we figure out what he's looking to see. But how do you think he's expecting to see something like that, just overlooking this massive wilderness?
So it implies that he knew that they were camping somewhere in that area. I don't know if he was looking for smoke, maybe from campfires, or if he was just going up there to think. I mean, like the way it plays out is, yes, that's what he was looking for, because he went up there, then he comes back and he's like, I know where we need to go. But yeah, I don't like, because where were they holding him? What could it have been, like an old campground that Aes Sedai used all the time type thing? And maybe that's what he was looking for, like signs of it being used, because Nynaeve says how long they've ridden, but I don't remember, because like right before Leandrin comes out, she's like, we've ridden however long, are you going to tell me where we're going? And then she looks up and she sees the sisters up high, and Leandrin comes out.
My guess was that maybe he sees a tent. You see the tents later on, and so he sees the. But I like the idea that they were aware of this happening, right? Mm-hmm. Because they do go to Two Rivers during the same time that Logain and that whole section. Maybe she was supposed to end up with them, and just kind of got lost on the way, if you will. Maybe that was part of her getting out of the White Tower, or, I guess she hadn't been back in a while.
I
So
was going to say, I
maybe
don't
that
think
was
she had
maybe,
been.
but maybe that was part of maybe her eyes and ears. I guess maybe there are discussions of that she knew that was going on. So
yeah.
And so I can
But
see
yeah.
them seeing like the tents, or he's hoping, right? It's just kind of a last ditch,
Yeah.
like hope that we see the Aes Sedai that are supposed to be somewhere near. I don't know. Maybe there's some signal that they throw up, like some bat
I was
signal or
thinking
something.
if there were flags on the tent, maybe like the flame of Tarvalin, but at the same time, I guess with that many Aes Sedai, maybe they'd flaunt themselves. You know what I mean? Like a single Aes Sedai is not going to flaunt herself.
My big question to myself is, was he expecting to see someone, or was he hoping to see someone? You think maybe he was going to the top of that cliff? Because you could see for forever from the top of that cliff.
Somewhere in the middle. I think he had reason to believe, but he knew maybe they'd have to get lucky. So I think there was some hope and some knowledge that were kind of mixed together there.
But so we don't really know like where they were on the map, though, right? Like,
well, we know they were somewhere between Shadar Logoth and Tarvalon, and we know that Gildan, which is south, kind of comes upwards at an angle towards Tarvalon. So you could kind of assume that maybe that I don't know if you could assume that he was anticipating that they were traveling in that direction to go back to Tarvalon from the war.
Is that he knew, because they mention it in the earlier episodes. I want to say they mentioned they're talking about there's somebody claiming to be the Dragon Reborn, and one of them says, "Oh, he's too old." In the beginning. Oh, but that's okay. Wait a second. That's when they get the guy, when Leandrin gets the other guy. So we do know that he kind of had an idea where Leandrin was, because they saw Leandrin before they went to the two rivers.
Right.
So maybe that is what it is. Maybe he's like, this is the way that they normally would go back to Tarvalin from the last place I saw her. Like if they have done what they were supposed to do and captured the dragon, they should be heading back this way.
Yeah,
right. They must have heard of the news of the false dragon in Gildan, so he probably assumed that Leandrin was going to Gildan, and maybe he was hoping. Maybe he rode all the way out to that cliff because that overlooked a pass that would be the most common way to get from Gildan up to Tarvalon.
Yeah, I think he was making a lot of assumptions, and there was a lot of hope that there would be somebody on that path. Or maybe it's just a path that's a path that's taken by Aes Sedai in general when they're traveling back to Tarvalon. And he's like, there's got to be a sister somewhere along this path that could help.
Just trusted the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do.
Yeah, the wheel weaves.
And we are only threads in the pattern. So that's covered everything that I had in my head and my notes from my rewatch of episode 3, which I am ashamed to say was only my 4th time watching it. I feel like I have let down my younger self.
You got kids now. You'll rewatch it before season 2 comes out.
So
multiple times probably.
Well, I guess one of the keys to that relationship between Matt and Rand in Bray and Spring was this idea of, how much Rand cares for Matt and his friends, and seeing how he cares for him, even though Matt's kind of starting to turn a bit.
Yep.
There's that kind of question of, will they be the same for him when Rand starts to turn a bit, if you will? But yeah, I think they did a good job of really pulling out Matt and Rand in this moment.
Yes.
That's when I felt the most genuine appreciation for the translation of these characters into the show was in this episode. I swear there's this moment where they kind of go back and forth between going home or going to Tarvalon, like between them, like we have to go forward, we have to go backward. I love the kind of back and forth aspect of what they think they need. I loved the Dana, giving
Yes.
us, even if you want to call it exposition, where she starts talking about,
Oh, we needed it.
basically like telling us Shamael's feelings, but
Mhm.
as translated by Dana. I still just really, really well kind of formed there. And you didn't need to do much more than that to kind of freak people out that anyone could be on their trail, and so they have to be
Yes.
careful. And just the combination of this, even into episode 4, we're not going to talk about that today, but the continuation of their journeys, but with Tom, continues the same thing. Like, it's just really,
Mhm.
really well crafted. So yeah, I think this is where I got to episode 3 and I was hooked. I think the most here. I was like, yes, I'm here for this. This is the story that I wanted to see told, and like keep going. Like, that's where I kind of felt, and I'm glad they gave us the first 3 episodes at once.
Yeah.
I think at the episode 2, I would have still been like, okay, I see where you're going. I'm happy that you kept this piece of it, because I think it's important for these characters to kind of be split up. But episode 3 was, I think, where I saw it fully realized their vision for at least the characters in that moment where they were going. Part of me wishes there was a bit more of that, all those relationships, more development as the series went on. I felt like they got a little bit stagnated a little bit. I wanted them to dig in a bit more. So, but that's what I'm hoping, I guess, for season 2 is they've kind of did a lot of world building in season 1. And so I'm hoping for, a bit more of these relationships, and really focusing on some of these core characters more so than maybe happened in season 1. I actually did always say I wanted season 1 to kind of open up the world for us.
Sure.
So I think in part they did that. But yeah, still love episode 3 as much as we talk about it. And now I love it even more now.
So do you still feel that same way about Rand and Matt's relationship in episode 3, knowing that if Rand wanted a man, he could do better?
So that is totally what you say when you can't.
Excellent point.
So I will say, even in the books, I always felt like Matt and Rand were closer than Perrin was with either of them. For one of the reasons is because I think Perrin was the only one that really worked. Like, he had a legit job. He wasn't just on his parents' farm. You know what I mean? Like, he always did seem to be a little bit more, and he took things slower. Like, it took Matt a lot less effort to talk Rand into things than I think it took to talk Perrin into things. So I think there were probably times that Matt and Rand went off and did things, and Perrin was stuck at the fort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always felt like those two were closer, which was also why in the books, Matt kind of reacts the way he does when he finds out who Rand really is.
Yeah.
Like, he has a more, not violent reaction, but I mean, he has a jerk reaction, but I think that's just a knee-jerk reaction of, I've been around him the whole time. He can't be. He's my best friend type thing. Where Perrin, we still have cautious Perrin in the book, and he's still like, okay, well, let's think about this. Like, what are our options? And Matt's like, leave. That's our only option. We have to leave. So, but I do really like the way that I think the two actors in this episode played off of each other really well. So I'm anxious to see how new Matt is going to interact. But it might be fine, because now Rand knows who he is, right? And I'm assuming new Matt's going to get healed. So there's those two things in their relationship that's going to change the dynamic anyway.
Right. We're going to start off seeing post healing Matt, which is already a different animal, if you will, from pre-healing Matt, from Dagger Matt. So that dynamic itself is already going to change. Right.
Though I am interested to see if we get to hear the dice. Like, I don't, because that just seems like such a like, it's an important thing to us, but I don't know if non-book readers would be like, what the hell is that? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised. We get like a whistle. We get the whistles. We get other, I can imagine like a subtle kind of,
just,
that I could see them going there for sure.
Yeah, just like a little like Yahtzee cup.
Just off in the corner, and it just shakes a little bit.
So here's my thought, and Rafe, if you're watching this is something to take into consideration. How about instead of dice, a roulette wheel? That has a much more distinct sound.
It does,
and it certainly it gives the connotation of gambling.
But we've already seen Matt dicing badly. So
I mean, we got bats.
We did get bats.
Right. Roulette table, maybe.
Maybe.
Well, I'm not suggesting that he play roulette. I'm saying that that's what he should do.
Just the sound. Right.
Yeah. Just what he hears in his head.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. That
also.
And, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're already on the topic of giving Rafe suggestions, I still stand behind my my suggestion of making it the kazoo of Valier. I know we've seen the horn already, but the horn makes no sense to me. Like I can believe in a world with magic. I can't believe in a world where somebody who has never played an instrument can blow a perfect pure note on the first time.
Tavirin, plot armor.
Do either of you have anything else from episode 3 that you would like to discuss?
I don't think so. I mean, I really did like Dana's character, though. I like them pretty much wrapping up all the dark friends that they meet along the way into her, and I think she did it really well. I really like that actress. I keep saying I'm gonna look her up to see what else she's been in, but I like the way, like when she confronts them right before Tom kills her, they're both like, who said that? Because they have no idea about any of this. Like, she's opened up a whole new world to them, and then Tom kills them, and or kills her, and I almost feel like they're like, well, wait, we had questions. Like, what was she talking about? Oh. And then they're like, I guess we're going with Tom, I guess. So.
Yeah, my only last note, I'd forgotten about this one. I thought it was this episode they did 2 really cool transitions, but maybe it was just the one. Maybe
no, the one with the blood. When they kill her, the blood into the trees.
Maybe there's another one in episode 4, but I feel like they should have carried that through like all the episodes. I was I really liked it. I don't know. Maybe they tried and it was just like
it just didn't work out. Yeah. But no, the one with her blood, and then we were back in the forest. Like, even Brian was like, "Oh, did you see that?"
Well, it was like her blood. She's a dark friend. It's red forest. They meet Leandrin. She's Red Aja. Yeah. I kind of like the connection between those.
Cool.
And dark friend.
Well, yes. I wasn't gonna spoil it for your audience.
I mean, this is a spoiler-full episode.
I was just kidding. So. I get really nervous about spoiling things, even on the most, like, I was on WoT spoilers, and it took me like a half an hour to warm up to the idea that I could just say things.
Well, so my 20-year-old Roman is reading the books now because he watched the series and he really liked it. So it's taken that to get him to start reading the books.
Nice.
So, but it's like I can't talk to him about it. Like, I have to sit and wait for him to come to me with questions. Like, I can't just have a conversation with him about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first thing he noticed was that Robert Jordan really likes to talk about dresses. I was like, yes,
it's true.
Yes, he does.
Yep. So anyway, before we wrap up, just wanted to get to the P in crap. And
you're gonna explain that to people, right? We're not just like
you might want to put a little disclaimer up because
crap.
That just made it a whole different show.
Yeah.
It just
I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth.
No, that did not come out the way I intended.
I don't believe you. I think you had that written on a piece of paper. I think that's how you end all of these, isn't it?
No. So anyway, oh boy. No, that was purely I didn't even hear how it sounded until I stopped for a second and realized what I had said.
Yeah, we weren't going to let you get by that.
No,
stop that.
Not at all.
Whew. All right, we're gonna clean that up in post.
You should do.
Maybe put that in the outtakes for
Nice.
Anyway, the last thing that we're going to do is take a look at the things that we've discussed and try to predict how the show is going to move forward based on these storylines. So, some episodes are easy, like episode 8, it's pretty easy to try to predict where they're going to go because you're left with all these open endings. But even the other episodes, they have segments that lead to future plot lines in the books. And based on how we've figured out why they're cutting things, why they're condensing things, not condensating, we can try to predict what directions they're going to take in future seasons. So Ebony, why don't we start with you? Do you have any thoughts about how they might move the story forward based on the things that we've done in episode 3?
So here's the problem I have is, like the books, everything runs together. So I'm trying to separate out episode 3. Like after Eye of the World, that's all one book. That's the rest of the books are all one book. I think probably the biggest thing from episode 3 is not necessarily fixing Matt and Perrin, but moving them towards a character arc that more aligns with their characters in the book. Because we do, as much as they change them, we still do have to get them to those points because they have a role to play at the end. So, I mean, their changes are going to have to be made. Though with Perrin, the change has been made early. I kind of don't want Fael, but I know we have Fael fans. As far as that, and Lan and Nynaeve, I think I'm more interested to see how they're going to handle that. I don't know that I have a prediction. I know what I would like to see, but I want to see how that relationship moves forward. And also, we need Tom and Moraine to meet.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm thinking, I guess, predicting. I mean, clearly they're playing up the Way of the Leaf with Perrin. Like, even more so. They really seem to want to make this conflict with Perrin be something that the viewers buy into wholesale.
Yes.
So instead of just being like, oh, cool, they stop at Tinker's and Way of the Leaf, and oh, there's a wolf here. Okay, cool. He's conflicted. It's like, no, kills his wife, and then like he can't, he kind of wolfs out around the White Cloaks, but he's still conflicted of like violence itself. So I think you're going to get that continuing to build, and then you obviously have Elias coming into season 2. So you look at Nynaeve, this idea of almost burning out, the power that both she and Egwene have. I can see that being very humbling, right? And maybe this like leads to her block, like everyone's saying, because she can't sense the wind. So they seem to kind of be wanting to pull these things out and not just assume that we understand why these things happen or that they just exist, and they're trying to show them that. So a lot of season 1 felt like that, of like the things we took for granted just as readers were like, well, it's a block, it exists, or he's slow and thinks about things, or Rand just does things like from his the passion of his heart, and right. they're really kind of digging into putting Lan and Nynaeve in that kind of bonding them this tight. Then like we know in The Great Hunt that Moraine kind of looks at Lan, she's like, does it chafe, does this bond chafe, Well, now we know it does. Like they're kind of just like, no, it's chafing, and how does that affect them now? They're really highlighting things that we are just told in the books, many cases, and making them into full-blown, visually, just understood plot arcs. So I would just assume that we're going to get more of those divisions, more of those the building that they're doing, but maybe a little bit more in line with what we're used to seeing in The Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn, which is where a lot of these conflicts became more visceral than just being told things about people. You know, Rand's conflict of what it means to be the Dragon Reborn, people chasing him, how he handles that, you know, all those type of things. I think, I know maybe this is a thing that fans say all the time. Book fans are like, no, this is the season that it's going to align with the book. But I feel like the arc of their characters will become very much more akin to what we're used to seeing, because they've built it up this way. So
yeah. I mean, the reality is we had all of Eye of the World to learn their personalities, to learn for them, to see them confronted with different things that they had to deal with. And we didn't have, like, we had 8 episodes. Right. We had 8 episodes to learn their personalities before we could start throwing really heavy stuff. So they had to throw heavy stuff at them, because like they couldn't just put it up on cue cards for you to read. Like they had to show you. And I know a lot of people really didn't like that. I know a lot of people wanted the naive Perrin that had never been out in the world, that had never been with a girl. You know what I mean? And I was like, we don't have that kind of time. We gotta move it along. 8 episodes is all we've got.
You're saying we don't have time for creepy interactions between Lanfear and Rand? What? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know what? We're still going to get those blasphemy, because it's Lanfear. But no, I think, I do think that things not necessarily will slow down, but I do feel like they had to put a lot into just 8 episodes. And I know some people felt like it was, I know I've heard people say it was disjointed. I've heard people say that it was like cluttered, like it was too much. But I was like, we didn't have a whole book to learn all the little things about them. We had to advance the story. And I mean, be happy you got it. How long have we been waiting? I mean, it could have been just dolls and a guy walking up the stairs.
Yeah, and I think a big part of our perspective on that, with people thinking that it was disjointed or missing things, is it's our expectations as book readers, knowing the backstory, knowing all the details behind it. Most of the people who I know who haven't read the books yet, but who've seen it,
they were fine.
Did not feel that it was disjointed, did not feel that there were pacing issues.
Right. I mean, with my son watching it, like, he didn't know anything was off unless I said, well, that's not exactly how it happened in the book. This is what happened, but this is why they're doing it this way. But otherwise, he was just like, no, it's pretty good.
So thank you both for joining me. This has been just a blast. This was a lot of fun. And in my head now, I can't stop thinking about my comment from a few minutes ago. Yes.
Has there been enough pee in your crap?
Oh boy.
You're welcome. I mean, we're just decent guests this evening. So, you know, what did you expect?
I expect excellence from all of my all of my guests. No, seriously, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you both coming out here and talking Wheel of Time with me, which is what we do best as Wheel of Time fans.
As always. Yeah. Thank you for having me. And Ebony, awesome seeing you.
Yes. And I'll see you next month.
I know. See you soon.
Yes. All righty.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. If you have any questions, comments, etc., please feel free to leave them respectfully in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. And join us next time for episode 4 with our guests, Jenny, aka Lesbian Nerdy, Seth Jacobson from WoT Spoilers, and Tigraine Mantier from Twitter of Time. Until next time, this is MALKIER'S King, signing off.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, please subscribe, hit the like button, give us a thumbs up, or leave us a comment. We love comments, especially positive ones. And if you have any friends that are interested in the Wheel of Time, please share some of our videos with them. And as always, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Tor Books, as well as our amazing Patreon community. And if you are interested in learning about how more of this show was made or some Wheel of Time insights, you too can become a member of the Patreon community. And as always, follow us on Dragonmount with social media. And thank you so much for watching.